the song's a little repetitive. But so is Joshua chapter 1. After Moses dies, here's what God says to Joshua. There. Joshua chapter 1. Moses, my servant, is dead. Now may you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave to you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so that you may be successful when you go. Keep this book of law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And then in case Joshua didn't get the point, the Lord has some subtle ways of doing things sometimes. It always amazes me when I get up to preach, and one time, 2 or 3 times, Bill has changed the song, and the song he changes to always fits the sermon better. And I think, oh, that's good, Lord. Well, find out that it's biblical. Because after Joshua gets this message, he goes and he talks to the people, and he tells the people what God has said. And they're all excited, and here's what they say back to Joshua. Then they answered Joshua, verse 16. Whatever you have commanded us, we will do, and wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Now remember, they didn't hear what God told Joshua. Okay? Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you may command them, will be put to death. Only, and they're telling this to Joshua, only be strong and courageous. And I can hear see Joshua saying, that's good, Lord. That was good. You think it's important? How many times does God have to say that to be important? Why is it so important? Well, because remember Numbers 13. That's why they messed it up the first time, is they lost their courage. They lost their strength. Only Joshua and Caleb were saying, we can do this. And everybody else kind of wilted back. And God called it what it was. He didn't say they're kind of weak of soul, or they're just not got enough courage. He called it what it was. He said it was wickedness. That not going in to take the land when he came the first time was wickedness. It wasn't just a crisis of confidence, but it was people not doing what was right, which was to take God at his word and to go into the land. That's why they had to wander for 40 years in the wilderness. Until all those adults who refused to do what God had said had died. And so the people that Joshua was talking to have never known anything else. All they have ever known is the wilderness. Now they're very good at the wilderness. They know about the fire and the cloud that leads them. They can follow that. We got that. They're good at taking the tabernacle down and putting it back up and camping in the right places. They know about that. They're good at getting the manna, and they've got those routines down. They know what it's like to live in the wilderness. But now they're going into a different world. Their life is getting ready to change. The world that they used to know is gone, or is passing away, I guess would be more accurate. And now it's a new life ahead. And And because of that, even though most of the changes are welcome and good changes, they're still changes. They're still new. And so God says, be strong and courageous. Now what do you know? If God comes to you and starts a statement by saying, all right, I need you to be strong and courageous, what do you know? This is not going to be a cakewalk. Whatever it is that's coming ahead, it's not going to be easy. And it wasn't easy for the children of Israel. The world is always changing. We're always changing. People that talk about the body talk about that over the course of time, there's not one cell in our body that is the same as it was years before. We're changing all the time. The world is changing. Usually it's a gradual change. It's slow. We barely perceive it. But sometimes there's things that kind of move into warp speed ahead. I love the picture somebody showed of the actual inside of the Starship Enterprise, the movie set. And there's all kinds of funny things that you do not see. I love it on the back of Captain Kirk's chair. You can see there's a little tag on screen, but you can't see what it says. They showed a close-up. It says, you don't pull on Superman's cape, you don't spit into the wind, and you don't. ... That's around the gym. That's what it says on the back of Captain Kirk's chair on the Enterprise. If you look on the diagram of the ship that Scotty's always looking at, if you look up in the upper right-hand corner, there is a rat in a squirrel cage. They show it on the diagram. And then down at the control module, this is the one I was thinking of, at the control module where the pilots are, it has warp 1, warp 2, warp 3, really fast. That's what the designations are. Well, sometimes change moves on at an easy pace, but sometimes all of a sudden somebody kicks it down really fast. I have a feeling if you were alive in the 1860s when they fired upon Fort Sumter, you knew. We just hit really fast in the change category. 9/11, it didn't take a rocket scientist to say the world's never going to be quite the same. And I don't think it's anything new. If you were alive in Rome in the days of Julius Caesar, when Caesar breaks the law technically and brings his army south across the Rubicon River into the region of the city of Rome, people were falling saying, it's never going to be the same now. And I suspect that's what we're feeling a lot of. And probably right. In this whole COVID-19 thing already, we're sensing that it's never going to be the same again. And then the events of this past week, the first time in 200 plus years that we didn't have a peaceful transfer of power, people are looking at it and say, it's never going to be the same again. We're entering a new world. Things are going to be different. And people are saying, different? Well, different how? And the answer is we don't know. There's one guy who wrote a book. He's selling about how to be a post-quarantine church. Well, good luck. That's a little crystal ball gazing. And maybe Rainer's right. He's done some good writing in the past. But it's a challenge. Because we know the world we're going into is not the same world. And I'm not sure where we'll be 5 years from now. But I do know that one of the things it's going to take us to get from here to there. Be strong and courageous. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. That's what it says. He says it over and over and over again. Be strong and courageous. And don't be afraid. Now there's reasons for not being afraid. There's reasons for being sure. And God lays those out, at least 3 of them here for Joshua. He says, first of all, verse 6, he says, be strong and courageous because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to see how we can do this. What kind of strategies will work? What can we do that will be so that we'll be successful? And we're agonizing through those things. And leadership has to do those things. But in the back of it, God says, remember, Joshua, this is my work. This is something that I proposed. This is something that I have initiated. And if God leads you to it, then He'll give you what you need to lead you through it. So Joshua, be strong and courageous, and don't be afraid. Paul later on, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, talks about weakness. In verse 9 he says, God reminds you that His power is made perfect in weakness. It's made complete. When we are weak, God says, that's when I supply the strength. Philippians chapter 1 verse 6, Paul tells the Philippians, he says, that the God who began the work in you will also complete it. And that's what he's reminding Joshua. Don't be afraid, because this is my work. The one thing he didn't need of him, verse 7, is he says, be strong and very courageous, be careful to obey all the law I saw Moses gave you. And then he talks about meditating on the law, remembering it, living by it. See, all the manuals they had about how to live life, they were written in the wilderness. They were written about wilderness life. The strategies they had for being successful and influencing people, they were all written in Egyptian. It worked great in the old world, but now they were going into a new life. So God reminds them that His word is not tied to one place or the other. That they need to hang on to it. They're going into Canaan. And there's going to be lots of new things, lots of new questions they haven't had to ask before. Lots of new ideas they haven't had to deal with before. There's going to be lots of different philosophies about how to work and how to live and how to be. And they're going to have to get used to the fact that once again, they're a little bit out of step with the world. God's people have always been a little out of step with the world. The world says, go for the money. Grab the power. Get bigger, get better, get larger. Be all that you can be. That's the world. We've always been out of step with that. God said to us, Moses, remember, when you go into the land and you have all these ideas swirling around, all these new ideas about how to be successful and everything, you keep my word close to your heart. It's not going to be easy. But you meditate on what I say day in and day out. Let that guide you. Stand up to the pressures to conform. Be strong and courageous. And don't be afraid. Don't conform to the world around you. And finally, in verse 9, he says, the reason to be strong and courageous is because I am with you wherever you go. Matthew chapter 28 is a passage we always quote. Go ye into all the world, preach the gospel. That's the part we always quote. And I'm sure if we were the apostles right then, we're glad that the verse doesn't end right there. We're glad that that's not the complete verse, because they would have felt overwhelmed for sure. These are people who have lived all their life in a very small region of the world. And now you're talking about changing the whole world. That seems like an insurmountable task. But the whole quote is, all authority, Jesus says, all authority has been given unto me in heaven and on earth. Go ye therefore and make disciples of all nations. Then he says, and lo, I am with you always, even to the ends of the earth. See, that makes it all different. Our power in the church has never been in our ability to influence the public. That's never been our power. Our power has never been our esteem in the eyes eyes of the public. Our power has never been to be able to make laws and organize society around the values that we hold dear. That has never been our power. Our power has always been the Father. And the way He works has always been through the life that gets changed. We're going to go forth and carry the kingdom into the world. Not sure what we're going to face as we do it, coming out of all of this. But I do know that God is going to be with us. It's kind of scary. It's like I said, our methods, our strategies, they were for a pre-COVID-19, pre-9/11 world, really. We're still even adjusting to that one very much yet. In some ways, we're still pre-industrial revolution. That's another sermon. We've had struggles changing. And we're going to deal with old strategies and old ways of doing things that no longer work. And we're going to have to invent new ones, and it's going to take courage. We may have to dig deep into 1 Peter and Revelation and other passages, the life of Jesus, about what it means to be rejected by this society and to have to do your work outside the city, Hebrews says of Jesus. And we may have to return to those basics of how you serve people one-on-one and how you outlove the world. And there may be a day when we experience real persecution. That you can begin to see that a little bit on the horizon. One person noted that how people get persecuted. He said, first, society humorizes them. They're funny. They're odd. Then, society marginalizes them. Don't listen to them. Then, society scandalizes them. Oh, you don't know about those people. See, that's another step. Bad stuff comes out of those people. Then they criminalize them. They start throwing them in jail. And then they euthanize them. That's how people get into a persecuted group. And we feel some of that. And maybe we're going to go down that road. It's happened before. It's happening all over the world right now. But that's all right. Because God's people still can be strong and courageous because God's still there. And it's still His mission. And He's still going to be able to do His work through the way of the cross. And I was writing this sermon last night, put some final touches on it, and listening to Pandora. Had it on shuffle. And I thought of all the songs to come on, this is the one that came up. You know the song, There's Something Happening in Here. What it is, 60s protest song, you know. And I thought, boy, that's a kind of a protest song. Especially when it got to the line where it says, singing songs and carrying signs, mostly saying, hooray for our side. Better stop. What's that saying? Everybody look what's going on. I thought, boy, that's kind of scary. And then it turned, the next song, written about the same time, written by people who probably shared some of the same sentiments, probably, most likely, the Carpenters' love songs. And I thought, yeah, there is a contrast, isn't there, about how you deal with the world. We have a message that the world needs to hear. And the more uneasy and the more unsettled and the more scared the world gets, the more people will listen and be looking for a message of hope and peace in the midst of turmoil, and faith in the midst of fear. Joshua chapter. The story ends in Joshua chapter 24 by saying they went into all the land and they did everything that God had said they would, and God gave them rest. story of taking the land ends. We can take hope and take peace because we know how this story ends. God's kingdom is not taking a backward step just because society may be a little unsettled about it. We need to pray for it. We need to pray for the mission. We need to pray for the church. We need to be strong and courageous. But God's kingdom will go forward. God's mission will go forward. We just have to be strong and courageous. Listen to Him. You're not a Christian this morning. I can't promise you that being a Christian is going to be the easiest thing you've ever done. What I can promise you is it's worth it. What I can promise you is it's the greatest thing in the world to know that God is able to walk with you and do with you the things that He wants to do in the world. If you're not a Christian this morning, won't you decide that you want to become one? Be baptized into Christ, which is a giving of allegiance, is what it is. Saying that I accept you as the Lord and Savior of my life. If you're not a Christian this morning, won't you decide to do that? If you're a Christian, maybe it's just a morning to pray for the mission of the church. Pray for the church as we go through this time of change. Pray for the members of our family. And pray that we'll be strong and courageous. If you have need this morning, that's what this body's for.